To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, review and approve the agenda. Any additions to the agenda?
Well, I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Welcome, Steffanie. And we'll get you in and out of here to go down to the airport to fly.
Sounds good.
And Stephanie's here to kind of clear up any questions anyone might have on that municipal agreement. I think when we had it...
The emergency?
Yes, yep. And if there was anything...
It might be good if she just walked through the procedures as to how it's going to work.
Please. Short story.
Okay, the Public Works Mutual Aid Agreement is envisioned to work similarly to the Fire Mutual Aid Agreement that most communities are familiar with. In the event that there is an emergency that overwhelms the local resources of your town, and you need public works specific type resources to help address whatever you're dealing with, this agreement is designed to, I guess, formalize what may be kind of more informal or verbal types of agreements that exist in the region, so that you can reach out to a party to this agreement within the Rutland region and request aid. So the document pretty much lays out the process for requesting aid. It lays out the process for a compensation. But it's intended to be pretty simple and straightforward. It's not intended to be used for planned projects or kind of resource sharing arrangements that folks might have for kind of routine O&M. It's really designed for emergency type situations.
This went through all the legal stuff, and so I don't know if there's really that much for questions unless somebody has a specific one. I thought there was some questions when we had it.
Stan had mentioned to me maybe explaining what the role of the Regional Planning Commission was with regard to the agreement. So our role is very limited. It's much more administrative in nature and high-level administration at that. There is no statutory authority currently for towns to develop mutual aid agreements for public works. So the Regional Planning Commission's primary role was to provide the statutory authority under which this type of agreement could exist. That's really the main reason why we have any direct involvement. Other than that, our role is to help oversee the agreement over time to make sure that it remains current. There was a similar type of agreement that had been developed just after Irene, but then kind of, to my knowledge, fell off the radar and didn't get maintained over time. So that would be one of the roles of the Regional Planning Commission, in addition to helping to just facilitate exchange of information to all the municipalities that are interested in participating in the agreement. So if you do sign on, it will be the role of the Regional Planning Commission to distribute to all the party members the contact form, which is the second addendum in the agreement for your local aiding and requesting officials. And we'll also be responsible for disseminating the third addendum, which would be the NIMS-typed public works resources by town.
The only question that I have is, what authorization do we need to mobilize? Do we need a select board authorization, a town manager authorization, a public works foreman authorization?
That's really up for you as a community to decide what your comfort level is and what your local policies or operating procedures may dictate. I'm not familiar if you've got, anything on the books that would direct who's authorized to commit resources. Because if you are contacted as an aiding party, whoever is contacted in the town has to have the authority or been delegated the authority to commit your local resources to go expend them in a neighboring community under a mutual aid scenario.
I don't have anything, I think it's, in that list of equipment, that'll be updated every year with the town plans that you folks get.
That list of NIMS-typed resources actually updated every year with your local emergency management plan. That's one of the key sections in that document. So if you do find an error in terms of what you may have for resources in your town in the agreement addendum, the parent document in which that information needs to get corrected is the local emergency management plan. So that's why in that list, after the name of the town, the source of the data is provided in parentheses, with the LEMP being, of course, the abbreviation for Local Emergency Management Plan. Just one more quick thing about the contacts. Probably give some considerable thought to who you want that person to be, because the intent would be that in an emergency type situation, when somebody's in need, they're going to be able to call that person and they're going to be able to get a pretty quick answer about whether there's help available or not, as opposed to providing the contact name for somebody that may not be available 24/7, that may not actually be able to make any decisions, that may have to there may have to be some delay in getting a response back. The intention is for there to be a reasonable kind of turnaround time so that in an emergency situation, folks know whether they're going to be able to get assistance or not, or whether they need to make another call to a different member of the agreement.
Well, sorry to drag you over, but it just clears the air on things, and we do appreciate it. And
Not a problem. You have my contact information if there are any further questions that come up. In terms of next steps, we'll be collecting the signature pages from all the towns who are interested in participating between now and March 1st. Those will then be executed by the executive director at the Regional Planning Commission. We'll be getting back out fully executed signature pages to everyone. And also then asking that you provide us with your designated officials page so that we can distribute that at the same time.
Sure.
Okay?
Okay.
Sound good?
Well,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, see you tomorrow. Okay, I knew that was gonna be kind of quick. Okay, Teresa, you're here to tell us a little bit about your proposal for the town manager search, and maybe if you wouldn't mind using the podium here, maybe you'd be able to hear the information, you know, the people that do watch us on PEGTV.
So Stan called me and we had a conversation about his upcoming retirement in the next few months. And he said that you were interested in maybe getting some assistance with recruiting for the new town manager. So I tried to capture in the proposal some of the information that Stan described in terms of the level of support you might need. And I guess I would open it to questions unless you want me to read through the proposal. What would make the most sense for you folks?
And I don't know, as we probably all can read this, so.
I didn't know if you needed it for the audience or not.
Yeah. Well, you got any?
I guess just kind of going over like the high points about, you've probably looked and you've definitely worked with the league too, as the way their process is. So what they've touched upon and what they can help us with, and where you can fill in the gap if we decided that we needed something more or instead of.
Yes.
So, okay.
And you're local.
I am. I actually live in Clarendon.
So would you be involved in mostly, I think, I don't know if we're all like on the same page, but I think minimalizing our efforts, kind of, but like the biggest thing is advertising and then kind of screening all the applicants and stuff. And definitely just starting off with the job description and getting that up.
Sure. In terms of how all of this works, it really is getting to know some level of detail in terms of what your needs are. So for example, when Stan and I spoke, I said you may not need any interview questions, but I still like to look at it to make sure that I can propose to you some ways that you may be able to improve upon what you already have, so that as you're looking for this person, you're capturing the right information. In terms of advertising, yes, I can help with advertising, writing an ad. I also like to look at it from the perspective of, instead of the traditional kind of approach to an advertisement, help wanted, this is what we're looking for, that there is some level of capturing the nature of the position and the nature of working with all of you. So what I would be doing ultimately throughout this whole process is gathering the information so I really understand what it is you're looking for, drafting something and bringing it back, so that you would always be looking at each step of the process, what I was creating and drafting for you, so that it really is your own. So essentially, I'll bring my ideas to the table. I will put that together with what you are thinking and what your suggestions and recommendations are, pull that piece together, bring it back to you to make sure that it's a good fit with what you're looking for. I'm pretty upfront, so if there's something that I feel strongly about, I will make the recommendation and I'll be upfront about it and explain why I would be recommending this approach instead of that approach. So for example, with interviewing, I think it's really important that you have a good solid base with behavioral interviewing, so that you're not just getting yes or no, that we're sure that everybody's on the same page with the way the interview should flow, that you have set questions, which I imagine you do, and that they're designed to really focus on this particular position. So yes, I would take the applications, I would review them for you, I have a checklist that goes along with that and a resume, and from that I would help narrow it down but you would see all of the candidates, because it's really your decision. You know the position better than I do. I'm there to kind of guide and provide some insight to the process and make it as transparent as possible.
So, excuse me, so really, if we were going to do this, should we start out with our own kind of job description type of thing, or?
If you have a job description, then I would definitely take it from there. Most of the towns that I've worked with have job descriptions, and they've worked with the Vermont League of Cities and Towns on their job descriptions. And then I have added some recommendations or suggestions to the job description, so that you're looking at taking what you have to the next level. And it's entirely possible that you have a really well-written job description and you don't need any improvements upon it. So I like looking at everything so that when you're finished, not only will you have a process for this particular position, but you'll have a process for any position that you're hiring for.
What type of advertising do you know, where do you normally send this, you know, can we somewhat localize it rather than end up with somebody coming in or applying from Hawaii? And we'd rather, you know, have somebody from maybe someone maybe from the Northeast, but there might be somebody that wants to relocate back to this area for some reason.
Mm-hmm. So I think what you'd want to look at are where the typical places to advertise for such a position would be. I think it's really important, to your point, to identify the geographical area and what you can handle with regard to someone relocating here, and whether you're going to include any kind of relocation package. So part of this is going to have to do with your budget and what is available, and part of it is going to be, you know, where you can attract someone to come. And that's also where I think the advertising is pretty key, because I think you want to highlight why this job, why Proctor, and what makes that a really good option, and really point out the benefits of more of the small town, being in Vermont, the things that are available, and make it an intriguing, honest, but intriguing position for folks to explore that maybe haven't thought about that before.
Yeah. Have you done a lot with this type of a job in the area?
For town manager position itself, no.
No.
This would be my first town manager position to recruit for. I think that doesn't really concern me, because most often the positions that you're recruiting for, you just really want a good formula, and you want to know what the market is. And the other part of it that you might consider is really looking at passive candidates, those employees who already hold a position that could be qualified for such a position. They're less likely to leave the job for something that they're not sure about, and it can really, that can make a big difference.
Yeah.
And that's often something that we overlook. And it's also possible that as you're looking at a passive search, that you may hit upon someone who's qualified but isn't interested in leaving, but might be willing to explain to you who you could contact within that company or within that town, who perhaps has progressed to the top level and can't go any further, who might be a good option. So I would do both types of recruiting and consider both. So you're kind of mining for candidates as well as just putting that advertisement out there.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
So, well, let us, give this some thought, and hopefully we get going on this sooner than later. June is, the end of June is is not that far off.
It is not, and time has a way of flying by very quickly.
Yeah, yeah. So-
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome. And if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to get in touch with me.
Thank you.
Sure.
For the opportunity.
Yes, well, thank you for coming over. Okay, Lisa and Ron, do you want to tell us, maybe use the same?
So we'd like
Mike.
to apply to Mortimer for one full set of bases and then one double first base. And the reason for the bases is age and also to continue to make us compliant within the league. And the second thing we'd like to apply for is the automated external defibrillator. We all know what happened down at Terra Novich during the soccer game, and having that really changed the outcome. We have one at the pool, or the rink that they share, and just based on when we're there, that doesn't really work to share. So we'd like to go and ask for that. We're kind of down in a hole sometimes if you need share for somebody down there. They don't really know. Most people, it's amazing, they don't know where Elm Street is, or there's always the chance service is sometimes a little spotty down there, and we don't have a phone in our building. So a rough estimate with everything, with shipping, it's on the high end is $3,000. So, and that would be the total upper. And I say that because some of the things that we printed out when we were getting ready were on sale. I don't know when I go back in now that they're still going to be on sale. So we'd be looking for your approval so we could put the application together and submit it to Stan, or give a copy to Stan so we could submit for the end of the month.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, review of our December 23rd regular meeting minutes.
Motion to approve?
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, fine. And also our special meeting minutes for December 30th.
I love that I'm called Byrne, but
Oh, yes.
What did I do?
What? Burn Curtis.
Byrne Curtis instead of Ben.
Oh, Ben, yeah.
I'm okay with it. Kill the Byrne.
Got a little more meat to it.
Any other corrections, additions?
I make a motion to approve with the change noted.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And we're into open public comment. Bill New, if you've got anything quick that you'd like to offer, we're going to probably cover that later on in the meeting. We're gonna.
As long as I can participate, as much as I would much prefer not sitting around for an hour and a half, I'm here to be able to try to offer something about the warnings And other than the extensive letter and to try to raise some issues and concerns and give you examples, I think the warning on the 2 articles that I've been involved with dealing with the sale of the watershed, there are lots of questions and concerns that I would like to have a good exchange with you. If I'm allowed to participate at that level, I'd stick around.
Well, it would be, kind of limited time-wise. You've seen the last copy of the warning that,
I've seen the last revision that Alan just did. I just will give you a couple of examples. Even on the language that you're using for Article 7, I would ask you, do you believe it's mandatory? I believe the language that I see in Article 7 makes it mandatory, which would mean that if you decided you only wanted to sell 1,000 acres for $1 million, I don't believe that article would let you do it. I think that article would preclude you because you say you have to sell it for $1.5 million. So I think that there are a couple of issues on Article 7. On Article 8, you haven't defined what public use is. Does it mean just using a hiking trail? Does it mean using a bass trail? Does it mean the property has to be open for hunting? And if you can't sell it for $1.5 million because putting those restrictions would reduce the value of the property, does that mean that you don't sell it or that you're free to sell it? And then when you talk about reservation of the property to preserve town resources, I don't know what that's talking about. Is that talking about preserving the right to take water from it? Is that preserving the right to do logging? Is that preserving the right to do mining? And again, all of which you really significantly adverse the value of the property. I totally understand, having sat here at all the meetings, that you would look for guidance. I tried in my lengthy letter to you to say I totally agree with that, but there are ways to go about doing it that are different than what you have. And I hate to say as a lawyer, I'll put that lawyer hat on, I have reservations. I've talked to the title insurance people. I believe you could have a simple, should we sell it or not sell it, just as you're trying to do in Article 7. You then would be able to negotiate it, and I would expect that whatever you negotiate with whomever you want would have to have a town vote to approve it so people know exactly what they're dealing with. I know that Mr. Gerlach has come up with creative ideas that would protect the trails. He's got all kinds of things that he thinks he could work out so that everyone would end up with a win-win. So I don't see the need for an Article 8. I do see the need for Article 7. Should we sell it or keep it? But I think the language that you have will end up creating problems for you in terms of deciding what does the vote actually mean, what can you do, and when you have as strong opinions as you have at a few people, it leads to potentially lawsuits, and that just is something that all towns and all people want to avoid if they can. Because you're going to want to decide what you want to do when you have somebody who's prepared to try to negotiate in good faith and see if you want to sell it. If the people said, no, we don't want to sell it, then I think you're off on a different path, and then that's fine.
well, I think, Alan is, when he added some stuff, or made some minor changes, it was just his better understanding and looking out trying to make it as simple, an idea for that article and taking into consideration some of the items that Kate Warner had mentioned and some that you had, so.
Yeah, well, and I think Kate brought up a very good point, that if you did want to sell it to the National Forest, and it would come around to an appraisal, I think the language of preference in there would probably protect you, but you end up with an issue as you take a look at it, that what are the extent of the restrictions that you would be obligated to adhere to? And I think you could end up clearly having to have a new vote to try to clear it. But if you didn't, you would end up in other problems with people trying to define it. I'm glad that Alan changed it to plural so that you could sell it in more than one piece, so that you could sell it to the people who are interested in preserving the Long Trail, perhaps Catamount. There are other ways that it could be structured. But you should be clear, if you decided that you wanted to keep 500 or 600 acres, because that's where a lot of the trails go, and you wanted to sell the rest, could you do that with the language that you have in the articles, or do you need an entire new vote? Because you're not going to be able to get $1.5 million for 1,000 acres. But on a per acre basis, you would be able to come up with a similar price. So I just think the language that you have in there creates lots of problems. I never like to get into a disagreement with a town's attorney, but in this case, because it would be there, and I've run it by title insurance, it would require another vote for any contract, and if it requires another vote for any contract anyway, why not simply say, should we sell it and keep it? And if we're allowed to sell it, let us negotiate the best we think it is in the best interest of the town. And that's all you need to do. And if the vote comes through that they don't like the deal you negotiated, it doesn't get approved, no harm, no foul. Which I think is the simplest way to give you that much discretion, because you have as much discretion with that right now without having to vote.
I'm not agreeing with your verbiage necessarily, but I'm kind of looking at Article 7 as needing to be relooked at. And actually more so Article 8. And to me, it's almost needs to be broken up more into two separate voting, because it's I have a problem with, keeping the land for public use or permit the town to preserve the resources. What if the town votes doesn't care about having it, public use, but does want the resources? Then that vote, if you vote on Article 7, you're not gonna know what people are voting on, because it's gotta be, to me, it's not clearly written if it's and or something. That's just my take on that, on Article 8.
I don't even know the resources you want to preserve. Resources is such a broad word. What are the resources that you're looking to protect or might preserve? And if it has an impact on the value, appraised value of the property, and it drops it by $500,000, what does that do with trying to get $1.5 million? Are you allowed to sell it or not sell it? So that's why I had concerns.
I don't know.
Okay, well, we can,
We can bring it back to Alan, can't we, and say,
Well, that's the reason it's on the agenda is.
right,
Yeah.
so, yeah, to reword it so it is more specific, I guess.
Clear, yes.
Because like with the resources.
But do we have to approve it tonight, is the question?
no.
Well, the 27th is
Basically cut
the
off.
deadline to approve. I think further
Just to
discussion
revisit it, to
under the item when it comes up on the agenda as to what you would like to accomplish.
Well, I think just to make it more clarified and for the common layman to be able to understand it.
Maybe
We're talking about the water, I mean, that's,
Or timber, like resources
Right.
could be the timber, or,
yeah. Okay, maybe we can go over some of that, or wait and get Ellen in and what have you, so. Okay,
Would you like me to stick around, or would you rather that, if you're gonna send it back to Alan?
No, I don't
deal with
think-
because I don't think we'll address it again.
you know, not that,
point.
Not tonight, no.
So, I take you very much.
okay. Okay.
They didn't sign it.
David Huber.
Pretty simple, it's gonna be fast. I was already here the other day, I met some of you already. This was pretty much the parking and the speed going on High Street. We can't back into our driveway, we can't back out of our driveway. They're parking right across from our driveway. And when we do get out of our driveway, people are coming over that hill so fast. My wife's got 2 9-year-olds and 14-year-olds in the car. You got that little sign that says slow down? It's not, and the whole parking is just absurd. I mean, we can't get in and out of our driveway. Besides that, I basically came so I can be a little bit more part of the community scene. I've been here since July, and I just want to see how things work and be a little bit more in touch with what's going on and as helpful as possible. So that's pretty much all I have. Because like I said, I did address that the other day.
Mr. Huber came before the planning commission.
Okay.
Okay.
I was gonna say, I don't remember.
I made an issue.
He has an issue.
He told me to stop and
Yep.
they won't be here and
He has an issue with the
Where about?
daycare on the south end of High Street.
I
Okay.
mean, for example, the other day, some guy was parked in the truck right across from our driveway. I mean,
Where do you live? Which house is yours?
73. It's directly right across from.
I'm not picking him up on them.
Oh, can you come up here? Do you mind?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Lives across the street from the old parsonage,
From the where?
the old parsonage, Union Church parsonage.
Okay, okay, oh,
Russ
okay.
Gates' house.
Yeah,
Oh,
I live to the left of Joe and stuff.
He lives across the street from, I don't know who he bought it from.
Yeah.
He had Craig Popkiss.
Okay.
Yeah, so like the other day, there was a full-size truck parked right across from our driveway, exactly, I mean, common sense, you don't park on the opposite side of a driveway. But this guy took his time, and then he was throwing snowballs, oops, excuse me, and then he was just taking his time. My wife tried 7 times to get out. Finally, she got out enough maneuvering, and then when she did, one of the cars actually, it's an employee, because we know the cars now.
Daycare down the corner. I was thinking the
Yes.
church daycare. Okay.
And they, you know, I mean, I understand they have to drop off their kids, but we're trying to get out of our own driveway. We can't get in, we can't, I mean, I almost slid into somebody's truck trying to back in my driveway when it was kind of, the roads were kind of bad. I put it in reverse, and normally that's not an issue. It just, my truck doesn't roll, it's an automatic. And actually, because of the weather condition, I actually slid forward. I almost hit the car that was parked across the street. So it's just a matter of the whole parking thing. They park, I mean, apparently I guess the fire hydrant doesn't work over there.
Right.
But they also park in front of that, regardless of the point that it doesn't work. I mean, and also as far as I know, it's illegal to park in a certain direction on the opposite side of the road. So technically, if you're facing that way, you should be parked on this side of the road. You should not be parked that way on that side of the road. I do know the law. I mean, I don't do that myself. And there's been plenty of times where I've moved out of the way because we have UPS, FedEx, the school bus. I've moved out of the way.
What did the sheriff tell you when you called about that?
They haven't called him.
Hadn't had a chance yet.
Actually, when I called the sheriff's department, I was told that they basically are only allowed to order traffic, like speeding tickets. And parking, they could not do.
Because there's no signs that say you can't park there.
Right, yes.
But still, if you're parked illegally in the wrong direction on the wrong side of the road, that is still state law.
Yeah, maybe we ought to look at
I mean, if you were,
parking,
So they're not just dropping off, picking up, they're staying there longer than.
they're staying there, and it's just a constant flow, and then at the same time, my kids have to go to school. Two go over here, one goes over there. I mean, and they're parking directly across, and if you know the street, I mean, it's
it's narrow.
it's very narrow. And she's got a little Honda. I mean, I got a full-size truck. I back in, and even then, it's hard for me to get out sometimes.
I mean, it would help if they all parked on one side of the street.
It would help if they would stop parking across from the driveway.
Right.
But technically, according to their paperwork, actually, which I left at the house, they are supposed to be doing the drop-off in their driveway. So I do have the paperwork home. I forgot, Joe gave it to me.
Have you had a conversation with her just to say?
One time I did, you know, actually I was warning them because, well, the car almost got hit. And she said she would address it. She did address it apparently, but out of sight, out of mind. When kids are dropping off, or people are dropping off their kids, they just go. I mean, and like I said, the other thing is once you do get out on the road, when the people are coming to drop off their kids, they're going over this hill, and you got a sign, you did put up a sign, it's about this big. It's not like a normal average anything, and it's like underneath a tree. And if you think about it, when you take a left onto that road, you're still kind of turning, and you're not looking at this. And I know for a fact, I have my 3 kids, but then the house, a couple houses up on the left, they also have 2 kids as well. And a lot of times they have friends. I mean, they're going back and forth. My kids are friends with them. That's what I love about this town. I mean, my kids have friends. It's nice. Everything's great. I decorated for Halloween and all that stuff. But I mean, in the right that the people drive over that, I mean, I know they're going to work.
Right.
Leave a little earlier. Drive a little safer. You know, I mean, just courteous, you know. I'm not asking for much. I'd like to get in my driveway, get out of my driveway, and make sure that nobody gets hit. In the meanwhile, whether they're parking or if they're exceeding the speed limit and driving so they can drop off their kids so they can get to work. I mean, I have to work at 5:30. I leave the house at 5. It takes me 13 minutes to get to work. I give myself almost an extra 15 minutes. If the roads are bad, I leave before 5. I can do it, they can do it. But.
Yeah, let's,
But besides that, like I said, I just wanted to come and I'd like to be more part of things, and, you know, I don't want to tie anybody up, but, and I plan on coming to more meetings, and so.
sure.
We
Well,
appreciate it.
thanks for.
Well, like I said the other day, like my job, once I got hired at that job or any place, I'm family. And I look out for everybody. Plain and simple. I mean, no strings attached. That's what it takes to be a decent person. It makes me feel good. It helps others. It makes them feel good. Cuts a lot of hassle. But that's pretty much it.
Sure.
We can check in.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you. Well, thank you for coming in.
Yeah, nice meeting everybody.
Nice meeting you.
Yes, thanks. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Phil?
Can I make a quick comment? Okay, I don't take up any time, less than a minute. One thing, Stan, you don't have a job description for your position?
I have a contract.
Okay, well, I just figured that you would have, there would be a job description somewhere. Okay, the language with, there's a vote supposedly, I don't know, I just heard it talked about, and he talked about the language of the vote, and he recommended making the vote either should we sell or should we not sell the property. And I remember last year, or was it the year before, I don't remember, we had a fluoride vote, and it was worded in such a way that no matter what side you voted for, it could be interpreted either way. I mean, it was very confusing language. It wasn't like fluoride yes, fluoride no. And I just don't, it just seems to me there should be just a vote where the town should be able to say, should we sell the property or should we keep the property, without having confusing language, and then you could go from there and you could save a whole lot, unless, certain people want things to be confusing and sell the property, but it seems like it should be a town decision, and that's all I want to say.
Yeah,
It just seems like it should be, because there's a lot of people that feel very strongly about it, and it would be very sad to see something happen where a lot of people were, where most people felt, one way. It'd be pretty sour. That's all I have to say. I don't mean to take up your time.
No.
Thank you for listening.
Okay. You want to add anything, Charlotte? No? Okay?
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Highway Department, Stan. Huh?
Good stuff.
Oh, good stuff, excuse me, yep, had it crossed. Any good stuff?
So, National Honor Society members were just selected, and the current National Honor Society members who are seniors are Allison Allman, Miranda Martin, and Joe Valerio. They were inducted last year in March. The new members will be inducted, which are Victoria George, Connor McCarran, Sawyer Perkins, Janaea Richardson, Maeve Sheehy, Rachel Stewmiller, and Lucy Tate. And for those that maybe don't recall, the 4 pillars of National Honor Society is character, scholarship, leadership, and service. All of these students have done a great deal of community service within the Proctor community, and you should be very proud of these students, and all students, but particularly these students, for taking the time to write the essay and fill out the applications and do the work that's required to become a member of National Honor Society. I think it's important when we sit here at the select board, just like when we sat at the school board, I like to remind people about the town and the great things that happen. But when we sit here at the select board, that we also are cognizant of the great things that are happening within the schools.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Okay, Stan?
Highway Department, you've got the list. We had 8 different days with ice and snow on and off. You've all experienced what we were dealing with. I don't have an overtime number because timesheets came in last week and not this week, so I don't have that one, but I will update it and get it going. A lot of it was time with, other than that was maintenance, vehicle maintenance, shop maintenance, still cutting firewood. Well, they cleaned up some of the trees that Trees Incorporated took down. We made firewood out of them, so and that's a fallback. Today they were out putting in coal patch, filling potholes to get that done. Started picking up Christmas trees. It'll be probably 3 weeks before they call it quits. Hopefully they get, and if they find one afterwards, they grab it when they see it, so. Anything specific?
No, but I think that's a nice benefit that they pick up our Christmas.
It is a nice benefit, and they did a great job keeping the roads,
Yes.
I mean,
Exceptional.
absolutely wonderful.
And they got surprised one afternoon when all of a sudden North Street Hill iced up completely, and also West Street iced up. There was an accident on West Street down by the Cape and Farm on that afternoon, but it just hit, so.
Yeah, we had some pretty drastic temperature changes there, and it's, but they've done a great job.
They have. And there was some grousing on Facebook, and just tell them they did a nice job.
Yes. Salt usage.
Salt usage is a crapshoot as to where we're going. I think John said this afternoon that he had 4 loads sitting down there, so he's got 120 tons sitting in the shed, where last year he might have 30 tons sitting in the shed.
Yeah.
So his delivery is whatever. The big thing I'm cautioning him is he's got to think ahead as to how much he leaves over the summer and usage.
Yep. And I know he was in this afternoon, Tom and I were in, and he's been using some sand,
Let's
when he
stretch
can.
it out a little bit.
But-
Good. And he did mention the new salt shed is much more convenient for
Yes.
deliveries and his guys to load up.
But giving you a comparison gives you something, ideas. What we don't have is how much he spreads. What I should have is a spreadsheet that shows when he pulls stuff out, how many loads he pulls out. That would be truer than what we bought, but this is easy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yes, you know, we gotta keep the roads safe and,
Yep, exactly.
what have you, so. Okay,
Have they started billing you for the salt? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think the only thing that hasn't been paid is the last 4 deliveries.
Yep.
The rest of them are in your packet for today.
oh, our road and bridge standards, that's, they've changed, some of those, but I think it's basically,
This is the same one you approved last year. And we went on the, use the heavier standards all the way down the line. And I've got a sign-up sheet for people to sign before you leave tonight. If you'll move to approve it.
move to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Certificate of highway mileage. We just had that little addition over here on Electric Way. I think that's the only addition we've had.
5/100ths of a mile?
5/100ths of a mile.
Yeah.
I guess up to a grand total of,
What is it?
we had 3.5, so it's 0.4 of a mile of Class 4 road.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm gonna have Celia type in the numbers rather than me handwriting them in, and I have a signature spot down at the bottom of that for your signature, so make sure that you get it done before I get out of here. Before you get out of here.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That. Cover the Dufresne.
This is the grant for the sidewalk on the park, and when we submitted it, I was fully under the idea that this was a simple task to do, and we'd use the same specs and plans and bidding procedures we used for the last 2 we did. What you see is the checklist of what the state tells us we have to have in the documents. I took the liberty of contacting Dufresne Group, who we've used for the scoping study and also to prepare applications. And they came back with a estimated cost. I think it was 2,000, but I'm right.
2,000, right?
Yep. Right. To put together the bid package and all the permits. And I'll be honest with you, I'm asking for approval of this so that we can get it done professionally by them rather than me spending time trying to figure out how to do it.
this will happen on the South Street project too.
It could happen.
Yeah.
Well, that one will have to happen because that'll be a full-fledged grant under the regular program.
Okay.
But I just selected them because they've been involved, they got all the materials, and they could do it.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Okay, and that traffic ordinance we just had on there, and just so we don't forget it, we've got to spend some time with that. But
We do need to do that sooner than later.
Yes, and we've kind of finished our busy season here, our
Yeah.
budgets and Chittenden, and I think now we could take time to
Yeah.
start working on these
Yeah, we got our,
before town meeting.
I think I've got all the ideas that you have presented, including, as he mentioned today, parking facing traffic would be
Yeah.
also in there if that's what you wanted in there.
Isn't that
I-
a
I
state
thought-
law?
I don't
Well,
know.
that's what he said. He,
I thought so too.
I thought it was Hubert checked and he said yes, but the sheriff wouldn't send anybody over.
I don't think,
they
I've
wouldn't.
seen places where you can park opposite directions and it's fine.
yeah, I know.
Well,
So I don't know if it's really a state law or just a ordinance.
I don't know.
And I think we need to
This is in every
finish
other
this
state.
ordinance up.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Well, that-
If
I
we're
think-
gonna address this issue, we have to have the ordinance to
I think
address
that
it.
was the sheriff's, when I first talked with Dave, it was, the way I heard it was the sheriff only enforces the ordinances,
Yeah,
does not necessarily enforce state law.
yeah.
Now,
Which the
this-
sheriff did tell us that.
He seems to
On
pick
this
and
track.
choose what he,
Yes. On this traffic
Bite my
note,
tongue.
they did say that to us.
All right, so next meeting, let's have the traffic ordinance. and let's
Yes.
pass it.
Yeah.
Please.
is we can, you can get a copy of that to us a little bit early so we have time to look it over before our packages maybe.
Before
You
the
know, we
package.
could, if you emailed it to us, we could
That'd be great.
print it
And
out.
has anybody talked to this daycare person?
Well, Bob Coons talked with them, probably less than a month ago, with the assurance that there would be no more parking on the street as a regular parking, but drop off and take off, and again, she told him that she had alerted her clients about speeding over the hill, but she said, I can't stop them from doing what they do. All she can do is just ask. So, yes, Bob had talked with him. Of course, he hadn't talked with him for the last 3 or 4 weeks because he hasn't been out of the house, I don't think, for the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Bob spoke to her, you know, the neighbor went over and spoke to her. This has been going on since school started.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, Tom, the planning commission was asking for a letter going to her with the concerns that we've got.
That's what we'd like to do, but we weren't quite sure if we should pen it ourselves or have the town lawyer pen it. I mean, she's been spoken to by the zoning administrator.
Well, I don't think a lawyer, she's not doing anything illegal, so.
Well, according to her,
Lawyer.
according to her permit, that's a residential neighborhood, they had to
Right.
apply for a permit.
Right.
Zoning
But
permit.
does it say there's no parking on the side of the road?
All there can be is drop-offs for a short amount of time, and we've got people parking there.
And maybe we can spend some time on that when we looking at the ordinance and,
You could refer it back to the planning commission to pen their own letter, or, you know, if we want to get more technical, have the
I mean, can we ask Alan to look at it too? I mean,
permit, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, the issue is that this is violation of a zoning permit.
Is, you know,
The enforcement of it is not necessarily by the sheriff's department, it's by the town.
Yeah.
Putting together a package of a violation of the zoning permit, and then filing that, and then taking it to environmental court or mediation, whichever comes up first. Well, mediation would.
Well, maybe just a
The question
letter
is whether we
from
want to proceed that
us
route, or
then
whether it's a simple
saying,
letter.
based on your permit and your zoning,
Yeah.
you're required to not park on that.
Well, it doesn't necessarily say they can't park on the street.
Right,
If they have to provide parking for their employees, they have to provide parking for
Right.
this. I don't have the copy in front of me. I had it, Dick had it at the last meeting of what their permit reads. Let me distribute that.
so let's take a look at the permit and then figure out where we're gonna go from there.
I have an idea. The lady could put signs up, you know, for her clients saying, don't park here for longer than
2 minutes.
you know, maybe people just don't know.
Yeah, people forget things as soon as they hear.
Yeah, let's,
To be enforceable, it would have to be the
Yeah,
town, put it, as they say, at the traffic ordinance.
So at least.
yeah,
Well,
so,
yeah, right, and I
yeah,
think
so
the
let's see the
traffic
permit.
ordinance needs to happen.
yeah, let's look at the permit and maybe adjust our ordinance for that.
That's not the only place on High Street that's a problem either.
No, so, okay. Water department?
You got the report, most of it is the basic stuff that goes on.
Yep.
We did it out here, I think we reported at the last meeting, tried to find the service for Casella building. And that's put off till spring. All the hydrants that are dead are supposed to get some evaluations of why they're dead. Chris is coming in Thursday to sit
Right.
down with John and myself to review all of the things on the bottom of his list of things to do, to see when the things to do could get done.
Yep. And let's add that Patch Street one.
On the Patch Street, I mean, nobody knows what the problem is.
Right, yeah, but just to make sure that that one gets, when the weather permits.
That's their job, to find out the problem.
Is that, so there's only 3 hydrants that aren't working? That's it, total? Or are there more hydrants that aren't working?
Okay, we have 3 that aren't working, 2 of them, the one on Chatterton Park will be replaced as part of the contract. The one on High Street is going to be turned into a flushing hydrant. The one on Patch Street needs to be
Replaced,
replaced or renewed to get it done.
Okay.
so that'll be a spring project.
Speaking of contracts, has anybody come around to Chatterton Park and said that people have to sign affidavits?
Yeah, I've got 5 of them in, I've contacted, I think I left a message on the answering machine.
Okay. No, I just had a resident contact me and was a little nervous, didn't realize what was going on.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Which one is that?
lives next door to me.
Because there's only one person that I haven't made some type of contact with. Pelkey. Is that your, no. Okay, let me talk to you afterwards
Yeah.
then.
Please.
The delinquent list is, I put an updated sheet on your page. But it's not much different, other than we got 2 more foreclosures on the list. So that we would be receiving those once they're sold.
Is number 22, is that the North Street? Am I thinking that right?
22 is West Street.
Is West Street? Okay.
So the people who aren't current,
What I've asked for from John and Chris is, again, the ones that we can turn off today, and the ones we can't turn off today.
Number 28, what does that exactly mean? Spring agreement?
What it was he signed an agreement last spring when we went through the pink slips, and was keeping up with it, and then fell behind, and we carried it over into the fall section. So, but he hadn't kept up on it from then. But at least there was an agreement signed at one time, which he is now in violation of. All the rest of them were as a result of the stuff we sent out this July.
When is our next tax sale?
I've talked to Mary, she was hoping to get the closeout on the last one before she went up for the new one. The 4th of January has passed. The attorney is preparing the deeds for the transfer to the town of the 2 parcels. And the other ones are being sold out. So what she says is when she sees this cleaned up, that she will start the next one.
Good.
Anything else for water? Motion to go into Board of Sewer Commissioners.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The big one here is that we're meeting with Eldridge and Elliott on Thursday to review the Willow Street service area report and get ready to take the next step, which would be preliminary engineering for the renewals. What the Water Department's looking for is if there's anything they can do in the spring because if we go through the whole process, it's going to be 2 years before you see construction. Are there any stopgap measures that can help the program?
Anything else for sewage commissioners?
Did we ever do something, we were going to send a mailing addressing or put in the town report addressing what should and shouldn't be flushed?
The no flush stuff, yeah.
Okay.
And it probably will be a page in the report.
Thank you.
This slip lining seems to be a much more economical way to handle some of the problems.
If you could, if the pipe is solid enough so that you can get down through it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
That may be some of the things that they recommend. I haven't talked with them, that's what Thursday's meeting is all about.
Yeah, they must run a camera down through them or something.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes, okay, back into the regular select board stuff. Everybody signed the bills and orders. And we have a facilities use agreement for the elementary school.
Let's let them use the rink.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have some ice by then.
Yes, motion on the.
Motion to approve.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And, we have the resignation letter from Robert Coombs. And we certainly appreciate all the work he's done over the years for these 3 duties, and
Yes, he's done a lot.
Yeah.
we sorry to hear that he's not able to easily get around, and
The zoning board will be looking for somebody to take on the zoning administrator's jobs, and Stan did mention, but that position does have a stipend with it. There is a contract zoning administrator. We were gonna look into that a little bit. We don't, our zoning administrator isn't super busy here. And somebody from outside wouldn't have quite so many ties to.
yeah, might be easier.
I think, the planning commission is happy with 5 members. No reason to replace him, just to note that the select board understands that there's five members on it. This planning commission, minimum of 3, maximum of 9. So 5 is right in the middle, not quite the middle.
Yeah, young Tom Doty just came on board. Harry Gilligan resigned.
So you're all set membership-wise then?
We are.
Yes, yeah, good. So, we need to,
I move to accept Bob's resignation with deep regrets.
yes, so,
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Now, Stan, the zoning administrator, we can shuffle along. How about our health officer?
Yes.
How critical is this to us?
Well, it gets to be critical because one of the primary responsibilities of the health officer is respond to dog bites, which means that the health officer gets a telephone call from the hospital that somebody is there and has had a dog bite, and he has to follow up and file a report. So that's the one that's time consuming. The other ones that Bob gets involved in, and more, is the health department is accepting the challenge on tenants' rights. So Bob went out to visit a rental property the last couple of weeks to inspect the complaints from the tenant. And when they got through with the inspection, there was, the complaints weren't verified. But he has found other ones where he has been out, and there was a problem. I think last spring, we may have had not on the agenda, but on his reports is rats. That are, because people are leaving their garbage behind the house or not getting it picked up, the rats start multiplying, so he had rat problems. So the health officer, again, the person is appointed by the state health department commissioner. It is not a local office. The select board recommends somebody to the health department, and then the commissioner appoints them. But it's can be a time-consuming job. There are things that you have to respond to. Since we don't have a lot of septic system in town, we don't get those kind of complaints, which some towns do, when you got septics running onto your neighbor's property. But the big push right now is on tenants' rights.
What should we do?
Well, I think it would be important to appoint someone. You can appoint the chairman of the select board as the interim health officer.
Yeah, get even time, Bruce.
Or you can appoint one of yourselves as the interim health officer until such time as you advertise for the position and see if there's anybody else out there that wishes it.
I'm not interested.
I might know somebody who's interested.
We don't do COs and Proctor, do we, for rental properties?
Excuse me?
Certificates of occupancy, we don't do those in Proctor.
No, we don't have a certificate of occupancy in Proctor. We don't have a building permit in Proctor. Anything that happens internal, we don't know about.
Right.
I have a thankless job. Like the select board.
We have permitting, though, you need permits for
Get that one.
construction.
Yeah. The only thing that is enlarging the footprint is the only thing that requires a permit for.
Now, does the health officer also get called out when the fire gets called out?
No.
No.
Look for the job?
No, I'm just comparing it because I know ours does.
We'd get you a hat and a coat and everything. Well, I don't know about that.
Most of us responding to, as I say, dog bites or complaints.
Yeah, or, rental concerns and what have you. So,
Well, if Ben has someone possibly in mind, let's wait and,
There you go.
see on that, but,
If you want to appoint me to start, I'll do it, and then,
all right.
I'm pretty sure I know somebody who'd be willing to do it.
I nominate Ben Curtis as the interim health officer.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Enjoy that.
You'll wake up tomorrow and wonder what you did.
That's a good point.
I will get the manuals to you.
Thank you.
About that thick. No, it's not quite that thick.
Get right on that.
That's something we probably should have in place before summer, right?
We'll have some get back. Next board meeting.
Okay. Police Services Committee?
Our meeting got canceled.
Didn't get to meet.
It's being rescheduled.
Okay. Fraud risk assessment, we thought we were jammed up pretty bad, so Stan did contact Rick and gonna try to do it next
meeting or
next meeting, so.
Okay.
Now this, could you ask the treasurer to be here too? Just, because I mean, it concerns her more than,
Well, the reason, not the reason, there's a good reason for doing the exercise, but we've been written up for the last 4 years in the management letter that we have not had one.
yep,
Just like we don't have a policy for a couple other items that they feel we should have a policy for.
Yep.
I've got the draft audit that came in last Friday, which Celia and I are looking at, and then you'll get the full audit. But the same letter is there, the management letter with the same issues that we've had. And the intent from Celia's standpoint was, let's check off a couple of them this year and get it done. But this is something that the board has to do as far as the risk management.
okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to do something that she wasn't comfortable with.
Well, she wants it done.
Program or,
And there's two reasons. One is it cleans her reputation.
yeah,
Yeah.
The other thing is it takes that thing off the management letter, so it looks like we're at least thinking about addressing these issues.
Yep. So, we'll try to get him to come in by phone
At the next meeting.
So.
Put him early in the meeting, yeah.
Yep. Financial consultant.
That's not anything that we need to decide tonight, correct? It's just that he submitted what he said.
Well, I just put the cover letters on to remind you who had been here.
Yeah.
I was looking for the board to select someone to work with so that you could have an answer for town meeting as to what the best thought would be for income, as an income from an investment.
So we need to choose one before then, so we can, should we just can we recommend one and then everybody vote on it?
But if you select one of them, then we go about our business.
Right.
Yeah.
So, are we ready to do that?
I am.
I am.
Sure. Yep.
I recommend the Vermont Community Foundation.
I second that. That's what I recommend.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
I will get in touch with them and the other firms and say the board has made its decision, and then we'll sit down and start working with them.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, front wall is
There.
there, and the railings are up. It's just a matter of getting those painted in the spring.
And I have submitted for the $20,000 grant money until I found out that the person who administers that is out of town until next week, so. But it's coming.
Okay, the renovations.
I think I put a star beside the important item on this email.
Yep.
Is that the earliest that we can go to bid is February 1.
Right.
That all of the legal requirements, the posting of the notices have happened. Included is a copy of the sheet where the ad was in the Brandon Reporter last Wednesday, which was the day that she said we had to have it in order to meet this February 1 deadline. So we're on track. Ed Clark is geared up to meet the February 1 date to be ready to advertise. Brittany is coming over tomorrow to finalize anything on the floor plan to be sure everything is right to go. So we're looking at sometime shortly after February 1, going out for bids for the project. Probably at least a 3-week advertising, then considerations and awards. So it's going to be a month before we get a signed contract, and then some time before work starts.
So as long as February 1's a weekday, let's get it out.
The big thing is Celia's input is that we're not moving before town meeting.
No.
And even the week of town meeting.
No, I get that. All right.
Yeah,
I agree.
yes, that would be a,
Well, I would hope the contractor would want some decent weather to,
Yeah, I would think so too.
Yeah, I expect it's gonna, they've gotta go through a shop drawing process, they've gotta go through
yeah.
other items before they're gonna be ready to start digging a hole.
I'd just like to suggest that we put a completion date on this contract. Something reasonable, but, you know, I don't want to go through the stairs again here.
Well,
Absolutely. Completion date.
You said February 1's a weekday, it's a Saturday.
I said if February.
Okay. Junk vehicles.
And you've got one response that was, I put on your desk tonight from Center Street. Essentially, they have cleaned up their issue. Officer Webster was in today, picked up the spreadsheet I've got with the 6 letters which were returned unreceived. He will personally deliver them. There were 4 individuals who received a letter by mistake, according to them, that they do not have a junk vehicle on their property. It's their neighbor's property. So he's got that list to get back to me with new information on those. I apologize to the people who called and said, we don't have a junk vehicle on our property.
Well, the sheriff gave you the list, right?
The sheriff gave me the list. He had the wrong addresses.
So out of that list, how many have resolved the issue?
2.
2. This person and
And Jim. Yeah.
Jim.
I don't know whether some of the other ones have resolved the issue or not. I haven't gone looking. He's supposed to be checking on it, but
Okay.
he's got the list, and he's got my comments, and he's got the other ones to deliver.
They started this, the sheriff.
Yeah, well, they wanted to do a complete thorough job,
Yeah.
and the only thing that they messed up on was not getting ownership of the properties right on some of them.
I think he was doing it to be a neutral party, so we weren't picking and choosing in our town who had
Yeah.
vehicles.
Well,
Because some people do, and it wasn't raised.
Right.
That's why he did it.
but I don't have an issue with that. I mean, if my neighbor has a vehicle and it doesn't bother me, then I'm not gonna complain about it, and I think
Right.
that's fine. I don't think we need to be, you know, going through people's property and,
But I
if
think
there's
it-
no complaints.
I think it was like if you drive by and there's a car sitting on the side of the road that's been there forever, and someone complained, and then someone else has the same situation, and it was never raised, then they're questioning, like, well, why do I have to move mine when they don't have to move theirs?
Yeah. So, yeah.
I think that's part of the issue is, you made me do it,
Right.
but over on the other street across town, there's one there.
Yes, so,
And I had a couple people come to me after they got the letters. One actually covered his, and he's, I think, actually waiting on a settlement. It was in an accident, so he was waiting on a settlement, so he covered it with a tarp.
Yep.
And then the other one didn't have one on his property.
right.
It was someone else's property.
What I have done, though, is for people who have contacted me about a vehicle, I've said that is truly unregistered, uninspected, sitting there, but it is something. They need to put a letter to the Selectboard saying, my RV is an RV, and the registration is not due until next April, or I'm not gonna register it until next April when I wanna use it. So it's sitting there unregistered, but it's a trailer or a van. Oh, that was one. The other one says these are show vehicles.
Yeah.
Antique vehicles.
They would have an antique.
I said, write a letter to the board explaining what they are, and the board can deal with it, but I can't deal with it, the sheriff's department can't deal with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
The draft warning for the town meeting.
Well, I thought we discussed that one has to go back to.
Well, there was anything else on there, you know, we just did that.
Because I'm looking for some specific direction to provide Alan. And that's what Ray is here also, is to talk about the draft warning.
It could be a little simpler for normal people. And I don't think that would hurt if we asked Alan to try and simplify it a little bit.
I guess, you know, what was suggested was the simple one, sell the town, sell the property.
Yeah.
That was the simple one.
I think.
Well, we'd like a little direction out of this whole mess from the people.
Yeah, I think that's, the other thing that I think that Bill was pointing out was a second vote. You do a first vote whether you sell the property.
Item 7.
And allow the select board to negotiate a deal and bring the deal back to the voters.
Yeah.
Now, Bill is saying,
Our safest way to do it.
Yeah.
Is to say, should we sell it or not? And then look. Because we haven't even had it appraised, we haven't.
well,
I think we're selling ourselves short with this 1.5 million as a number in there. And even Karen said that we should not put that number in there.
well, that number's there because of the appraisal that was done back in 2015.
Right. But that's also making it so it has to be that, no less than that. And it also taps off that, why would anybody give you more than that if you've already wrote down that you'll just accept 1.5? So I think we should take that part out. Either way, if the town decides that we're going to sell it, we're gonna have to do more diligence and decide how much we're selling it for. It would have to go, in my opinion, it would have to go back to a town vote anyways.
Yeah, maybe we just try to get a simple yes or no on 7 and see what happens.
Or maybe, do we want to put, if yes, then, you know, if we're voting yes for that, are we leaving it open to all bidders, or does it have to be open property? Can it be a private sale? I'm not sure how you wanna.
Yeah, you could have A, B, C, or D, or what have you.
Don't give a choice.
No.
It's either,
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Yeah.
For the record, my name is Ray Alt, resident. Ray, could you?
Yeah, want to use the mic?
you get right on full camera.
Yes.
My name is Ray Alt. I'm a resident of Proctor for the past 44 years. And I am interested in this subject, speaking right now as a citizen of the town of Proctor. I do know the prospective buyer, having had interaction with him about 5 years ago when he inquired about a property I was selling. Nothing came of that. I do not represent him, but I have had a recent conversation with him, brief, and I was interested in speaking to the select board on the subject of best practices in approaching selling an asset such as this. And First of all, as a realtor of, well, since 73, I obviously come down on the side of private property rights, and that includes ownership of land by towns, by the way. And I have probably testified more frequently in the state legislature on behalf of the realtor organization and private property owners. Having said that, I like the board's instinct here, trying to keep things simple. And that is, what I have seen work successfully in other jurisdictions is for the board to simply ask permission to sell an asset and have the townspeople rely on your judgment. They elected you for good reason. Have them rely on your judgment to negotiate a deal or pass on it. If you try to negotiate through town meeting, you'll never get it done. I can attest, after 20 years as town moderator, it doesn't work. So my suggestion is to simply, even simplify this warning further and just ask for permission to sell it upon terms the select board deems appropriate, or to retain it if you cannot obtain terms that you feel are fair. Now, having said that, the market. The market is something none of us controls, and if you call every licensed general appraiser in our region and ask them what the appreciation in real estate values have been since 1990 or 2015, I suspect that you would find that they believe there has been 5% or less appreciation in those 5 years. In fact, some have weighed in with me recently, not on this property or land in Proctor or in Chittenden, but and have said, we have seen no appreciation, zero, over the last, actually they said over the last 9 years, because certain areas around Vermont, probably 80% of Vermont, rural areas, have been, rural Vermont has not recovered from the Great Recession to the extent certain locales have. They're only halfway back. The exception is Chittenden County, which is all the way back in certain towns and even exceeding what it was in 2008. So I would be cautious about anticipating too much increase in fair market value. You have an appraisal. I've not seen that appraisal. Pay close attention to two aspects of that appraisal. One is, what does the appraiser deem to be the highest and best use of a land? And that's usually what appraisers must determine before they determine the fair market value. And whether that land is ever put to that highest and best use is at the discretion of the owner of the property. And many owners, the town included, doesn't necessarily know what they want to do with the property when they buy it or acquire it or it's gifted it. And I think it's unreasonable to expect an independent buyer, whether it's Mr. Gerlach or someone else buying the property, to tell you exactly what they're going to do with the property. Many times they don't know. Usually, if they're paying top dollar, they know what they're going to use it for, and it usually means development. And I listened carefully to the testimony of other people at one of the meetings you held at the library, and it's great to have such a wide range of opinions of what proper use of a property is. And I commend you for your service, because you have to assimilate all of those varying opinions and come up with your own decisions. But I will say that if you think back to a basic, and this is just a 1-minute lecture, basic tenets of real estate value is, if you think of real estate, all real estate owners is having a bundle of rights. When they acquire a property, they're deeded a certain bundle of rights, and those rights are proscribed by zoning and by deed references that would be imposed by previous owners, restrictions. And when you take a property with several restrictions, as this one has, I think there's a Long Trail easement and some other easements. When you seek to add restrictions to a property, you're taking away sticks from that bundle of rights, and that diminishes the value. So be conscious of the fact that if there is a value to the town of Proctor's citizens to further restrict an asset that the town chooses to sell, you should not look at what was appraised in the appraisal you have, and if you're going to take away from that by further restricting it, you are diminishing the value of it. You should be expecting to accept less for it. But there's ways to get creative and ask a buyer to invite restrictions or invite other purchasers of the property, alternative purchasers of the property, that might, one that comes to mind is the Nature Conservancy. I love the Nature Conservancy as a champion of private property ownership and rights. I like an entity that goes in and determines fair market value and is willing to pay an owner for that to conserve the land forever. And that's one approach you could look at. But I do not represent Mr. Gerlach. I know who he is. I've never met him. And I wouldn't decline, representing him in the future. But I thought I would at least pass along my views as a citizen of the town. Any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Roy. Appreciate it, you taking the time and the concern.
We didn't think this was gonna turn into quite such a,
Yeah,
so we are looking for some guidance, from the people.
yeah. We never thought that it would mushroom into.
The time,
the time we spent and
Sometimes you
expense.
have to look a gift horse in the mouth.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, so. Anything on,
So what do we want to do about
I was gonna say some
that
direction.
article? We have to make a decision on that article.
Well, I think we already, didn't we earlier say we wanted to have it revisited with Alan and
Take Alan,
about rewriting?
But do we just want to do it yes or no?
well.
So if it's just a yes, or,
Excuse me, but the way he worded it was yes, yes, both ways. That's what I was talking about. That shouldn't happen. It's like, he said,
And
I
he was-
heard him say, like, the one vote would be, should the town, the town will move forward with the sale if they get what they want, and then the other choice is the town could refuse if they don't get what they want, which means the town's really not voting if they're gonna sell or not, they're just not really voting for, like, what are they voting for exactly?
I heard-
What is the choice exactly?
I heard
that you
him say
propose?
more that it was just, you just put it out there, do you want to give the select board
That's
the
what I,
opportunity
that's
to
what I
sell
wanted,
this
that's what
land?
I'm saying, sell or no.
That's it,
And
right?
I heard like
Just ask, do you want to, and if you say yes or no, right.
Right.
And then there's no Article 8,
Right.
Right,
It's just yes or no.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
But then if we do it that way, it's still on the floor, and we can talk about it that night at the meeting.
And it can always be amended. I mean,
Right.
it could be amended from the floor.
And the only reason I ask that is
The town of
because,
Proctor would appreciate it if they had a yes or no vote, I can tell that.
well, since this has started, my problem is that 85% of the voters have not come forward and said anything.
Correct.
So we're getting a no, don't sell from 5-10% of the voters.
And
And
yes.
the outskirts of everybody else that
Yeah.
don't even live in town. So I'd like to have, if we did have a meeting, the people that come to the town meeting voice their opinions and hear what they have to say. That's
Yes.
my thought on it.
But could there be a yes or no vote at the meeting, like just, should we sell or should we not sell, rather than have it be complicated and.
I don't want it a yay or nay. I don't want it by, yes or no, like.
Well, it'd be on the Australia ballot.
Right, it's on the ballot.
But
On
yes
the
or no, like you were saying, Ray, that, and then giving the select board a,
Well, I meant, I don't want by voice, the night of the meeting, say how many are in favor, and say aye, no, because.
No, I think it's gotta be ballot.
yeah,
I think it's ballot.
So wait a second, so I'm confused. So anyone at the meeting can call by paper ballot. You can't determine it's paper ballot because we vote from the floor. So it has to be an article to be voted for the floor. The only way it's voted by paper ballot is if people at that meeting that night call, or the select board call. The question on the floor currently is, how is the article to be worded? Shall the select board, shall the town of Proctor authorize the select board to sell the Chittenden watershed?
Right,
Yes or no?
right. And that's what we're deciding if that's how we should do
But
it.
you just said you didn't want it yes or no.
No, I didn't mean that. I meant in the past, we have had where we don't, like a show of hands or something, and it's just how many are favor, and they go, yes, and we have everybody with the loud voices.
All for a paper ballot. That's
Right,
the
that's
way
what, so that's what I'm saying, as far as the yes, that's what I'm saying. I don't want a yay or no. I don't want by,
I agree.
yeah, it
That-
has to be
That's
a,
the determination of the moderator that night.
Yeah.
About show of
That's
hands.
determination.
That's it.
yes,
My suggestion was to ask the voters for permission to exercise your discretion,
yeah,
really, to sell upon terms that the select board deems appropriate and protects the interests of the town, including deciding not to sell if you can't get those terms. So it's not a vote to sell or not to sell. It's a vote to authorize you to sell if you think you can get negotiated terms, and leave it totally to the board to negotiate those terms.
Oh, instead of forcing a sale, you're saying?
Right.
If we go, yes,
Right.
sell it. Okay, I see what you're saying.
And
Okay,
then
I
they can
misunderstood you.
constantly get citizen input
Okay.
until they make that decision. And they could announce, well, we're gonna make a final decision at thus and such meeting, and we might get a turnout.
Yeah, I think.
yeah.
So Ray, though, as a moderator, can that be done, can we put that on the ballot, or does it have to be done by a voice vote, or do we have to move?
If you leave the warning general, and of course, get your legal advice on the exact wording.
Sure.
But if you leave it general enough that this article pertains to the possibility of selling this land, the town asset, and to have the board be granted the discretion to decide on the specific terms thereof. And I would leave it as loose as that, and if there are citizens that are attending and want to force it through or want to prohibit the sale unless you get $5 million, whatever.
You're the town moderator?
I was.
He was.
Oh, okay, I thought you were, if you were still, I was just like.
No, I couldn't. I had to remain neutral, believe me.
But I thought the essence of the vote prior to this and putting it on the article was to at some point put this to bed, not to have the continuing conversation. That this has gone on for months now. I mean, we have had people come, we have had people come in. It has been on the agenda. It has been a constant kind of, I would think, a nuance for the board. And it was my understanding prior when this was discussed that it would be on the warning as an article to put it to bed, not to bring it and tuck it in neatly for the select board. And that's what I'm hearing. It's not putting it to bed. It's just tucking it in.
I think
So I
it's,
guess I'm confused on what direction, because it seems like now you've changed the direction that you're going.
I think it would, it would be put to bed if people said, no, you're not selling it, it's a done deal.
Yeah.
Or if they said yes, and the majority agreed, yes, it's up to the select board to do it, then there probably wouldn't be a petition later to disagree with our decision and go forward, because the majority are saying, yes, we give the rights to the
So
select.
that seems, so I guess I don't understand why it wouldn't just be a yes or no. Because by statute currently, even without all the verbiage, you have the authority if the response is yes. It seems to me that the simplest, if that's really where we're at, simplify the question, explain it the best to those that are going to come to the meeting that have, and it is amazing to me that people in this town have no concept that this is being discussed, but there are going to be those at the meeting, that the question be just that simple, yes or no. Because if the answer is yes, the people there don't need to give you statutory authority, it already resides with you.
Right, oh, I'm saying, that's what I think, that's what I'm agreeing to. I mean, I don't know if anybody else.
Right, eliminate number 8 and just make
Right,
7.
make it a yes or a no.
Yeah.
That's,
But you should also include the right to decide not to sell if you don't think the terms of a negotiated deal.
Yes, that should be in there, I believe, yes.
So you don't want it to be, okay, we've approved the sale of the land.
Right.
You've got to have it sold by a certain date.
Right, if Mr. Gerlach changed his mind after the vote and disappeared there's 1.5 and, you know, the Preservation Trust come in and offered us $750,000, you know, I would say no, certainly.
I can't speak to specific terms.
Yeah.
And parenthetically, my household is split. I'm undecided, my wife is again it.
so do you need a motion to do that? Change the article, get rid of Articles 8 and rewrite Article 7?
Yeah, I would think that would be,
Straight up or down?
yeah.
Yes. Yep. And would you mind if Alan gave you a call sometime, just Great. And we'll still be all right, Stan, in 2 weeks?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I have to send the town report to the printers on the 30th. Your next meeting is the 27th.
Okay.
So
So the next meeting, we need to put this
To
in.
have some wording, and if you don't like the wording at that meeting,
Yeah.
you will have a special meeting
Yes.
Yes.
the next
Yes.
night.
Next night.
Please, you know, stress to Alan, simple, you know.
Well, see, yeah, part of what Alan is doing was following the discussion at prior meetings as far as Article 8 was concerned.
Yeah.
With the expressed understanding or feeling that the select board did want to sell it to a public entity and not to a private developer, that they were trying to accede to all of the concerns that you heard. And so that's why Article 8 got written.
Yeah.
And it got written the way that Kate Warner kind of dictated it. Not dictated by forcing you, but dictated by
Yes. So,
reading it out loud.
Yeah.
So Article 8, I don't think there is, an issue on that. The Article 7, if I get the tenor, and what I will do is ask Alan to watch the meeting minutes, or watch the video, so he could, the tenor is a simple, shall the voters be authorized to negotiate or to sell the property, knowing full well that if you come up with a deal, that somebody's going to ask for a vote on it. Or you may even ask for a vote yourself without making somebody else do it.
But as Lisa pointed out, they're not required to have
Right.
a vote.
No, they're not, but we're allowed as citizens to petition them.
Exactly.
And so I just think it makes it messy when you think you're trying to cover yourself, that you're not going to have a petition, because there's no way to not allow the citizens to petition.
To the point that was raised earlier, Bruce, yes, voters at the meeting, if 7 voters request a paper ballot, you gotta do it. And so you hold a paper ballot, and you decide the question then too, as long as the question is germane to the warrant article. So that's why I say keep the article as general as possible. Get requesting permission as a select board
Yeah.
to sell an asset or not.
Yeah.
I'll speak with Alan when he calls.
Okay. Good.
Well, that was a help, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ray.
Yep.
Thank you for your service.
Well,
By the way, the stairs and the railings look great.
yeah, wait, and they'll paint them in the spring, and
Do you have to paint them, or will they rust if you don't?
I don't know, but they have to cure because they galvanized.
Yeah.
They can blend a little bit more into the building.
I didn't think you did into that. Good man.
Exactly, I don't think they look bad as they are now. You know, they're really, so. Okay. Town report cover.
Looks great.
Just the question is black or white?
I like
Or
the
color?
black and white.
I like
Yeah.
the black and white, and I like the first
This
shot,
one?
yes.
Yeah.
I like that shot. Which, it's funny, Dale Christie's name is spelled right on there.
Yes, I like that. Yep.
Yeah, he's already corrected me that I
I'm
misspelled
like,
his
that's
name.
not right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one.
And he can take the blur, the bright light out of it,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
so that it doesn't shine right in your light. But you like the first one better than the longer range one?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that longer range doesn't
Yeah.
And
really
I like
do
the
any.
black and white.
Yeah.
I think I did the longer range one was to show more light poles,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so to show one other building.
The closer one looks
So I
better.
could call it Main Street rather
Yeah,
than
we're
town
trying to show
office.
off our stairs there, that,
The final photo is, not necessarily, but the black and white is an important one, because I've got a list of the ones that people sent in and thought they were good.
Okay.
I didn't actually print out the one that most people were picking, I don't think.
right.
Sure.
This one is fine with me.
Yep, it's fine.
I can agree on, go with this.
Okay. Town manager search.
What about the select board report?
Okay, yep. Select board.
What you have, what I did is I went back through the minutes, pulled out various topics that were discussed at various meetings, gave them to Bruce, and Bruce came up with the list you have here. So it's just a question of topics, as to what you feel is important to report back. What I did attach was last year's report. That some of the verbiage is going to be similar, but with the idea of the way it was presented. If we go into one paragraph for each one of these items, we're in trouble. Some of them I can run into a single paragraph like I did last year with the highway department did the following things. So if there are any preferences for topics that you would like to see reported on or feel that are important to the public and for getting into the record. But I'll work with Bruce. As I say, I have 21 pages of notes that I made him go through to come up with the list.
As silly as it sounds, let's move the mosquitoes up as high as we possibly can. I think that's huge.
Okay.
And if we can just see a draft once you get it done,
Oh, yeah.
that'd be fantastic.
I'll send it out as soon as we get
Awesome.
the wording. Once I get to writing, things seem to flow pretty good. But also check for misspelled words too.
Always.
Because there is an issue this year as far as proofreading. Celia's taking vacation next week.
Okay.
And she does all the proofreading for it. So what she says is that we may not ship it out on exactly the 30th, because she will proofread the whole thing for me.
Maybe looking over that, maybe we don't need to talk about Electric Avenue. Maybe,
Probably not. I don't think so.
no.
I don't think that's a huge thing.
Well,
What are we gonna say about the sheriff's department is my question.
I guess the only, I was gonna put that under the budget
Okay.
item, is that a significant increase in the
yeah.
sheriff's department fees. So I didn't put these are, a lot of these are gonna run together. The highway department's all gonna run into a single paragraph.
Yeah.
Water is gonna be a single paragraph, wastewater is gonna be a single paragraph.
Okay.
Town office is gonna be the town office plus the asbestos plus whatever else we did last year.
Plus the front wall, plus, yeah.
So the sheriff's contract, though, that is not until fall, right?
July 1 of next year,
July 1, okay. Of 2020? Or
2020.
Okay.
But that's, what I'll do is put that one under the budget item.
Yeah.
Some of the other ones should be under the budget item too.
Okay.
Well, I'm just asking because we still have a little time.
Yeah.
Now, we got 6 months before the contract, although you could terminate a contract within so many days anyway, so. But if there are some topics that aren't on the list, please feel free to give Bruce a whistle and say, put them on the list.
Okay, town manager search, do we want to deal with this gal or VLCT?
So we're going with either or?
Well, it's possibly,
I mean, we're not going with both.
Not with VLCT's price, certainly not, no. I certainly wouldn't, I don't even want to prove them alone with their
Right.
price. She didn't, this young lady here didn't put anything in for advertising, so
right, yeah.
I would be a little more curious about that.
Yeah, I'd want a more detailed
Yeah.
proposal.
Yeah, but I like her attitude, she's local.
Seemed very thorough. I just.
Yes.
I've worked with her before at another town for a job, and she did very well. She was very organized. She did a really good job.
Yep.
I've actually known her for
Have
a
you?
while.
Yeah.
Cost would be nice.
Well,
Yeah, I mean,
and-
like if you could give us like if it's $2,500, but then advertising is $2,500,
Right.
then, you know, so I think
Yeah, when you're-
itemize more of a proposal, just so we
Exactly.
can compare apples to apples.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
And she can still advertise, we can still advertise in the league's newsletter, so.
Right, because there's not a cost for the league. And in fact, you can advertise on Indeed for a period of time as well without being charged.
Yeah.
So there's some options.
Yep. All right, so we're leaning towards her, but we don't want to say for certain right yet.
Let's just ask what her fee is gonna be.
Yep.
yeah. See if we
Just
can
want to
get
ask her, do you want to select and ask her to put a contract in front of you?
Yeah, that'd probably be
I
good.
think
Yeah.
we'll put the contract in front of us, and we can go from there.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we'll have a little better idea of,
Right, I'd like to see something written down instead of just
Yeah.
word them out. Yep. Yep. Good. We're moving forward.
yeah, and then we can, have that for the 27th and.
Did you get the motion to request a contract with her?
So moved. I was first.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay,
I personally would like to see her whittle this field down a little bit, if we get a ton of applicants, If we get 30 applicants, and I'd like to see her whittle that down to,
My experience with her is that she did all the phone interviews and whittled it down to who would come in for an interview. And she had notes on each one and why. Which she still gave opportunity for the select board of that town to say, oh, we're going to interview them anyways, or we're not.
Yeah, I think I'd like to certainly have, 5 or 6.
Yes, yeah, 10 or less, so I think to sit through was enough. Good.
Okay. The budget,
Big shoes to fill.
yes. Hard act to follow. Any questions on anything in the budget? I think it looks pretty darn
Nothing
good.
looks scary. How do you feel, Stan?
I'm happy, well, I'd like another $100,000, but you're not gonna give it to me.
We all would.
Yeah. We like your old Yankee attitude, though.
Yeah,
I mean, knowing full well that a year from now, you're gonna be budgeting for repaving Park Street, Chatterton Park,
yeah,
a year after the water project is done.
yeah.
So you will be coming back with a significant paving project the year after.
Yeah.
That worked well up on the
here,
hill, though,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
dig it one summer, pave it the next.
And then
And then get Park Street all the way down to Grove.
Yeah.
Get that all.
Maybe the
But that's
school
gonna
would chip in for part of that.
you could bond for $5 million to see if you can fix the road.
Yeah.
I think I said that at the last meeting.
I did.
You haven't paid Chatterton Park for 16 years, so
It's been as 15 plus,
16, Bean was a baby. July.
We like to get our money's worth.
One of the things when you look at the budget report is the town office expense is a high number because all of NBF's invoices are in that one item.
Right, yeah.
Not that it should stay there, but for accounting purposes, and I wanted to be able to report what we've been spending on, because I know Tom was concerned that we were keep on going, and they just keep billing, because we're doing extra work. Now we're back onto the basic contract again. But this will give you an idea.
But no, we've had a lot of odds and ends in this,
The other thing, of course, is Chipman watershed.
yeah.
And it shows up as legal expenses on your sheet. This is what we're spending, whether it gets charged to the water department, as Tom has maybe suggested, or whether it comes out of any revenue from a sale or any revenue from logging. I mean, it could get transferred over to the legal item under the water department, with just an act of the pen, so.
None of us saw this coming, I don't think.
But again, I thought it was important, just some way to report what was going on before I switch it to someplace else.
Yep.
Then you would never know what the answer was.
Yep. No, we certainly want to see the price.
Yep.
And the CDL report is just an add-on I threw in, the common level of appraisal from the state, and we are appraised at 98.48%.
So we're in
What
good
they
shape.
feel fair market value would be, if you drop below 80, then they tell you to reappraise.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a bad number to me.
We started after reappraisal of 1.1, and we have slowly slipped down to 0.98, which is not a bad slip.
No?
No. Nope.
Any questions on the sheriff's report?
I have some. So when we're looking at the date 1/8/2020, I'm just wondering why we're paying for this sex offender registry check. Why is that coming out of our time and our budget? That's just one question I have for them.
Okay, resident.
Someone called in a complaint, or?
It's several of them, several locations, so I'm just wondering why we're paying for this.
Oh, so they're doing a yearly check, like?
Yes,
Oh,
and it's
okay.
on our budget, and I'm just wondering why we're paying for it on our budget. So,
It's like when we pay for subpoenas.
well, that's my question, because I think that, I've noticed we haven't paid for another subpoena, but.
Yes, you know, I will ask the question, but I don't know the answer either.
Right, and then I have a second question. What is EQ maintenance? Seems to be in quite a few of their
What's the date on
notes.
What was that?
If you look on page 2 of 8.
Okay.
Right at the top there, 1330 to 1500. EQ maintenance, and there are a few of them.
HCA for EQ maintenance.
And what I don't know if they're going back to headquarters and doing something, but I'm kind of wondering what that is.
I would assume
It's on our
EQ is
line.
equipment, but I will.
Because there's several of them, because there's another one,
Out of the car for EQ maintenance at Howe Center Auto.
yeah, that was
So
my
it's
first one. I'm
vehicle.
like, why are you at Howe Center Auto on our dime? So I'm just looking for clarification.
Good question.
And they were supposed to, stop using quite so many of these,
Abbreviations?
yes. But they seem to be creeping back in.
Well, I've noticed that there's a couple officers that had smaller time here than they usually do. So the report is different. So maybe they were on vacation or had holiday or something.
I was noticing too, a lot of our time is late in the day, into dark.
Yes.
I don't understand why we aren't around during the daylight hours.
I thought we had talked to them about that as well.
We got a revised schedule a month ago. I haven't seen one since then, since the first discussion with Steve with him, we got one. And they did provide 2 days, which they were here at 7 o'clock in the morning, but the other 5 days, most of them were from noon to midnight.
Yeah, I don't know why
Yes.
they run, would you ask them also why they run those hours?
Because we have addressed their hours more than once.
Why so late?
Yeah, I mean,
So when do you think a police officer is needed more? In the middle of the afternoon when nothing's going on, or at night when it's dark? I mean, if there's things that we're more concerned about, are we more concerned about the kids crossing the street after school? Or are we more concerned about nighttime when people aren't home, maybe somebody breaking in, or there's other things that could be done because it's dark out?
I think we asked them for a mix.
Right.
I think we asked them,
Right, but we can't ask them to be at the five-way intersection every day when kids get out of school.
well, that's
Or
not what we're
morning.
asking though.
But it is, it's because it's a topic that's brought up every time they're here. Why aren't they at the five-way intersection all the time?
They were only there one time.
They were only there
for this
once.
report. And
Right.
at one point, they were there for a half an hour from 11 to 11:30.
Right.
Which isn't even the time that we asked.
I'm just saying.
No, I know, but that's what I'm
if you're going
saying,
to
I'm
be
not-
there, and if that's the conversation every time you're here, how do you have to be, not to be there from?
Right, but what I'm saying is, if you want them there, then what else are they gonna do at night? Do you not want them here at night then? That's what-
To me, when you read it, there's a lot of static, a lot of, that they drive from one place to the next and set from 15 to 20 minutes. As a citizen, I prefer they were roaming the community or residential areas so that there is a presence. But when I read this, I can read through some of them and they drive from West Street to where they like to set on Hospital Hill to where they like to set at, on South Street. I mean, there are places
Right.
where they set. And I can read through some of these and all they've done is move and they're here half an hour, here 15 minutes, here half an hour. Where I would think it would be more beneficial to actually to have that movement. And I don't see them being in town at a time in the afternoons that we think about kids and like that. So I don't know. I've read the report. With respect to the sexual registry, my concern is, what about the ones that weren't there or that, is there going to be follow-up? So There have been some things in town that have happened in the last couple weeks, and I'm going to see, I've been pretty disappointed in the Rutland County Sheriff Department and their response to citizens when they were contacted. So, in the last 2 weeks with things that have happened near the school, their interaction and their immediate responses were not positive.
But I think it's important for them to be here in the evening, not necessarily every day, but I think we can't, dictate this schedule. I think it needs to rotate so people don't know when they're going to.
I agree.
That's the point.
I agree, but I think they're scheduling, you know what I mean? I'll bet if we checked with West Rutland, we'd find when they were here at night, they were in the day in West Rutland and vice versa.
Well, I mean,
that's
we share, they drive back and forth. You'll see a number of split days where I'm sure that the intermediate hours are West Rutland time.
And it might be beneficial if we ask them just for, a sheet of their codes. So if you're looking at these like acronyms or initials that you can go, oh, that's what that means. Because I don't think we could expect them to all write long-handed, reports. So it would be, we would question why, what's this mean, that we could kind of use it as a reference or something.
That would be good.
Yeah, we did talk about getting the technical termage or numbering system out of it and get to words that we understand. But I recognize we are falling back into terminology again.
But like Judy was saying, even just a lexicon where, we know what EQ is. It'd be great.
Okay. Anything that we missed? We need to take care of. We pretty well covered everything.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.